who breaks the power of sin and darkness, whose love is mighty and so much stronger. The King of glory, the King above all kings, who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder, who leaves us breathless in awe and wonder. The King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is our faith in love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You lay down your life, that I would be set free. Whoa, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who brings the chaos back into order, who makes the orphan a son and daughter. The King of glory, who rules the nation with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance. The King of glory, King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is our faith in love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You lay down your life, that I would be set free. Whoa, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy. This is amazing grace. This is our faith in love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You lay down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me.
Hi folks, my name is Steve Sutton. I'm blessed to be part of the pastoral team here at Bayview Church. Welcome to our online service today. I trust that that somehow God is able to impact you and strengthen you through this service today. For those of us living in metropolitan Melbourne, we were greeted with the news earlier this week that we are entering into a phase of stage 4 restrictions, which severely limits our ability to move around and really does make us pretty well housebound for the next 6 weeks. And so I want to speak hope and encouragement and peace over you. And I trust that maybe the troubled waters that are swirling around you might be calmed by the presence of God. Before we go any further, I'm going to read from Romans chapter 8 as we prepare to go into a time of communion together. You know, in the ancient church, communion was known as the love feast. And I just want to anchor us in the love of God. Romans chapter 8 tells us, who could ever separate us from the endless love of God's anointed one? Absolutely no one. For nothing in the universe has the power to diminish His love towards us. Troubles and pressures and problems are unable to come between us and heaven's love. What about persecutions, deprivations, dangers and death threats? No, for they are all impotent to hinder omnipotent love. Even in the midst of all these things, we triumph over them all. For God has made us to be more than conquerors, and His demonstrated love is our glorious victory over everything. So now I live with the confidence that there is nothing in the universe with the power to separate us from God's love. I'm convinced that His love will triumph over death, life's troubles, fallen angels, or dark rulers in the heavens. There is nothing in our present or future circumstances that can weaken His love. There is no power above us or beneath us, no power that could ever be found in the universe that can distance us from God's passionate love, which is lavished upon us through our Lord Jesus, the Anointed One. Bless you as you eat and drink of the bread and the cup. And remember, you are infinitely loved. Let's eat and drink together. Blessings and enjoy the rest of the service. I'll see you soon.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. And I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I will my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me.
Hi everyone, my name is Lorna and I wanted to give you a bit of an update about how the tribe is doing. If you don't know about the tribe, we are Bayview's youth program. We're open to all young people that are high school aged. We usually meet on Friday nights and we talk about faith and life and everything in between. We play games and share food and just enjoy growing and doing life together. For term 3, we've put together a bunch of episodes that are themed around overcoming challenges. So Nate, Mitch, Cass and myself will talk about challenges that we've faced and ways in which we've tried to overcome them. We're then encouraging the young people to get on board on an app and break off into small groups. They can discuss whether or not they can relate to that challenge and the ways that they've responded, whether they've been helpful, not helpful, or all the grey in between. We had also given ourselves the challenge of learning how to skateboard over the 10 weeks of term, but unfortunately due to stage 4 restrictions, we're just not able to do that. So we've put the pause button on it and we'll see what the future holds with that. Here's a little look at what we've been doing and really hope you enjoy. Hey everyone, and welcome to our first week of Tribe Tuesdays online. Nate, Mitch, Cass and I have given ourselves the challenge of learning how to skateboard over the next 10 weeks.
The challenge in my life that I wanted to talk to you about comes from the time I spend on social media and on the internet, looking at the stuff that people share on Facebook, the stories that come through news and current affairs stuff. I see a lot of stories about stuff happening around the world, and a lot of it's really confronting or scary, or it really just stresses me out.
I just want to be able to go on it like straight ahead and stop.
Stopping is a theme.
And just look cool doing it.
Oh, and look cool.
Yep.
Okay. It's getting more tricky as you add layers.
Start, get to the end of a straight line, stop gracefully and cool.
The most valuable thing that I learned through going through counselling was that it's okay not to be perfect.
We've put the pause button on this week's episode, and we just wanted to, just touch base and see how you guys are going during these crazy times. going to share with you, I suppose, some experiences I've had growing up around bullying and how I dealt with them.
I hope that you enjoyed that little glimpse into what the tribe is doing right now. If you're looking for ways to support us, one of the best things that you can do is pray. We all know how difficult lockdown is with these restrictions at the moment, and if you throw into the mix being a teenager, maybe having some challenges at home or in schooling or with mental health, then it just makes it that much harder. So if you could pray for our young people at the tribe and also teenagers in the broader community, in particular those that might be vulnerable or that are doing VCE subjects, then that would be super appreciated. Also, if you know a young person that's high school age that you think may benefit from the Tribe program, then please get in touch with either Nate or myself and we will do our best to get them connected into Tribe. We just want to send a huge thank you out to our Bayview family for all of your prayer and support. It is super appreciated.
Hi everyone, Mark Connor here, and it's a great privilege to be joining you today for Bayview's online church service. It's a real privilege to be able to share with you. Appreciate Steve and Lou and the team there and the board and you as a congregation and all you're doing, particularly as we navigate these fairly turbulent times. It really is a crazy time here in Melbourne, particularly as we're in lockdown 2.0 and endeavouring to work through this huge health risk that coronavirus is bringing to our world. There's been some pretty major social disruption. I'm sure you're all missing seeing family and friends and gathering as a church community in a physical space. And of course, it's had a big impact on the economy. People have lost jobs and had reduced hours. Maybe you've experienced that. There's been some business closures, either temporarily or permanently. Particularly in service areas like restaurants and cafes and gymnasiums. Banning of large gatherings, including the theatre and the arts and churches, have all been affected by that. For investors, the share market's been a bit all over the place and rental and property prices are definitely down. And so this is a major economic upheaval that we're living through. And thankfully the government is doing its best to help with initiatives like Job Seeker and Job Keeper. But this lockdown is affecting all of us financially. So today I thought I'd share a message with you entitled Money Wise, Managing Your Finances in Tough Times. Money Wise, Managing Your Finances in Tough Times. We're going to look again at the book of Proverbs for some wisdom. Proverbs has lots of practical advice for relationship, work, handling temptation, dealing with anger, and also managing our finances with wisdom. The book of Proverbs contains general principles rather than formulas. You've probably heard of the English proverb, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, it doesn't mean that if you have an apple every day, you'll never see the doctor, nor does it mean that doctors don't like apples. It's a general principle that if you eat healthy food, you'll probably end up going to the doctor a little less frequently. And so Proverbs is like that. These are general principles. They're not formulas. They're not automatic. There are exceptions, but there's some general principles for our life. And so let's share a couple of principles for managing our finances. Number one is to live a life of integrity. Proverbs 22 verse 1 says, "Choose a good reputation over great riches. Being held in high esteem is better than silver and gold." And so as we start out, it's important to realize that who you are as a person is far more important than the amount of money you have, the stuff that you own. I love the word integrity. Integrity means there's an integration between who I am on the outside and who I am on the inside. And unfortunately, we live in a culture today that often sees being well off financially as more important than living a life of integrity. And success today is often determined more by what a person has than who they are. And many people today assess their self-worth by their net worth. And many of today's heroes are often the rich and the famous. But Proverbs is just getting us to pause here and letting us know there's a lot more things important than money. Things like love and kindness and honor and a good name, a good reputation. You know, you might have just a little bit of money, maybe just getting by. But I tell you what, if you're known as a kind and an honest and a loving person, then you're in a much better place than someone who has a lot of wealth and yet who is mean and rich and dishonest and has constant tension in their relationships. And so money is important as a means to an end, but it's not the ultimate measure of the good life or a life of wisdom. And so let's continue to focus not just on what we have, but on who we are as people, developing the kind of qualities that reflect the nature of God and make us an enjoyable person to be around. Who you are is far more important than the money you have, the finances, the stuff that you own. And so Proverbs reminds us of that. Second principle today is to work diligently. Proverbs 13 verse 4 says, lazy people want much, but get little. But those who work hard will prosper. All through the book of Proverbs, there's this affirmation of diligent hard work that usually leads to blessing. It brings wealth, it brings profit, there's a sense of satisfaction and often promotion. On the other hand, Proverbs condemns laziness and slothfulness. The Message Bible refers to the lazy bones who keeps turning in their bed and never gets up. And where there's slothfulness, there's poverty, there's scarcity, there's lack. You know, right from the beginning, back in Genesis, God ordained human work as the means for which we can generate the income needed for us to live our lives. God gives us skills and abilities, and He gives us the power to get wealth. Notice He doesn't give us wealth. It'd be kind of nice if you woke up in the morning and there was a little envelope of $100 for the day. We got that every day. No, God's not in the money-giving business. He's in the power-giving business. He gives you abilities, gives you talents and skills, and then as you use those to provide a service or to provide a product for the benefit of others, there's an exchange for income in our lives. And so the way we earn income is ideally to be a diligent worker if we're able. And working with a good attitude is really, really important. And my dad used to say the reward of work well done is more work. And when you offer a good service, when you offer a good product, when you work well, when you add value to people, then often there's a reciprocal return, not only of money, but of an increase of opportunities. And so today, how's work going? If you've got a job, do your best at it. If you don't, well, maybe it's the time to upgrade some of your skills. There's a whole wealth of online courses available today to upskill and to be able to be productive in the new economy that we're living in. You know, for me, I've traveled a lot and spoken a lot and been a guest speaker at conferences and all of that's shut down. So I've had to adjust. And so I'm doing some online coaching now, some online webinars, some video sermons like today, putting a lot of my dad's book in PDF format and making them available for people. I've had to adjust and think creatively about the kind of work that I do. And so in the midst of this crisis, look for some opportunity. There's some new ways for you to generate income. Maybe it's selling some stuff. We used to do the garage sale, but nowadays there's Facebook Marketplace and eBay and lots of ways to move some of the stuff that maybe is just sitting around and gathering dust that you don't need anymore. Again, don't sell a family member's stuff. Sell some of the stuff you're not using and generate some income. There's lots of ways, but it's through hard work, it's through diligence that we generate income. Third principle is to avoid trying to get rich quickly. Proverbs 13 verse 11, wealth from get-rich-quick schemes quickly disappears. Wealth from hard work grows over time. Wisdom teaches us to avoid the pursuit of any activity that promises quick riches. You know, we live in one of the most gambling nations on earth. And, sometimes people do well for a while. I've got a friend actually I just spoke to last week, and he got into sports bet and was just put a little bit of money on and started putting big chunks of money, made a lot of money, and then ended up losing all of he and his wife's life savings. And his wife didn't know what had happened, and he's only recently had to confess that to her. Can you imagine the shame and the guilt and just all that they're navigating as all of that's been wasted. You know, your chance of winning the lottery is about 1 in 7 million, about the same chance of getting hit by lightning, I'm told. Usually within a few years, even those that make it big in gambling or the lottery are often back to where they started. I think there's some wisdom here. I think God has linked the acquisition of money with hard work so that we develop the character to be able to manage that money well. And when we get a lot of money really quickly with no effort, often we're not in a position to look after that wisely. And so there's a plethora of schemes out there today to give you a quick dollar. And the old saying is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. And so don't be looking for some get rich quick opportunity. Just little by little, Proverbs says, wealth from hard work grows over time. Number 4, our fourth principle today is to say no to debt. Proverbs 22 verse 7 says, just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is servant to the lender. The borrower is the servant of the lender. Proverbs has a lot to say about avoiding debt. See, debt puts you in bondage. It enslaves you to the person or the institution that is your creditor. And advertising today actually does its job to make us unhappy with what we have, and encouraging us always to buy the latest and the greatest, and even borrowing interest-free, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, even 36 months. And so this often leads to something called impulse buying, was where we buy something we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't even like. Not you, other people. All of us are prone to impulse buying. I'm told that women do this more than men. But just wait, ladies. Men do it with much larger amounts. Come on, guys. You've probably heard this before, but that extra pair of shoes is probably not going to bust the budget, but maybe that new television you bought possibly could. Anyway, we're all susceptible to this discontentment and this belief that having more or better or newer stuff is going to make us feel better. And if we go into debt to do so, then we're often in bondage. And debt can put us under great pressure, takes away our joy, takes away our peace. And so Proverbs encourages us to avoid, to say no to debt. And obviously, maybe taking out a loan to buy a house can be a wise thing because you're using debt to leverage what's called an appreciating asset. Hopefully the house over time is going to increase in value. Again, if you loan money to buy a car, it's going to depreciate immediately. If you loan money to go on a holiday, which we can't really do right now, well, it's going to depreciate really quickly and your photos aren't going to be worth the amount of your loan, that's for sure. So we've got to be very careful, use debt wisely, maybe to start up a business, but generally speaking, if we can avoid debt, we do really, really well. And the trouble is when we're spending more than we're earning. When we're spending more than we're earning, we're going into debt, and that debt eventually becomes a chain around us. And so if you're struggling with a mountain of debt today, you didn't get there overnight, and you probably won't get out of there overnight. But little by little, maybe consolidating your debts, applying new earnings to the debt, saying no to new or extra debt, and possibly getting some help, some financial advice to get out of that trap of debt. Maybe even downsizing. Ecclesiastes 4 verse 6 says, better one handful with tranquility or peace than two handfuls with stress or chasing the wind. In other words, maybe you're better with less than with more. And by having less, you don't have the stress and all the pressure that comes with debt. So Proverbs would encourage us, say no to debt. Number 5 is to say yes to savings. I love this verse, Proverbs 21 verse 20. In the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil, but a foolish person devours all that they have. This was written probably 2,500 years ago, but listen to the wisdom. In the house of the wise, there are some stores. They've saved some things up, but the foolish person devours or uses all that they have. Wisdom says to prepare for the future by establishing a savings and investment plan. If you've been a saver, if you've got 3 to 4 to 6 months of savings built up, then this COVID-19 isn't impacting you as much because you've prepared, you've stored up. And so But if you have no savings, then this can be a very, very difficult time because you have no reserve, you have no buffer. And so saving is making provision for tomorrow, and it's a mark of wisdom. Savings can create freedom, it reduces pressure, increases joy, and it enables us to be a generous giver. And so make a decision to be a saver. And when it comes to saving, just being a steady plodder, just a little bit. Earn and then save, spend less than you earn, and just save a little bit consistently over time. And it's amazing how your resources grow. You know, the book of Proverbs talks about the ant. And ants are very little. They have tiny little heads, tiny little brains. But in the summer, they save, they store up, so that when there's an economic downturn in Pennsylvania, they've got some resources, some extra to help during the wintertime. Us humans, we've got bigger heads, bigger brains, but sometimes we're not as smart as the ants. We don't save, and therefore when there's pressure, we're not prepared for those times. And so make a decision to be a regular saver. It's great wisdom. Get started as soon as you can. And then number six is to be a generous giver. Proverbs 11 verses 24 to 25 says, "Give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. The generous person will prosper. Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed." And so wisdom also teaches the importance of being a generous giver, both to God's work, but also to people in need. Amazingly, generous giving is a key to further financial blessing, not necessarily the result of it. You know, often you hear people say, well, when I get a lot of money, then I'll be a generous giver. You know, when I make $1 million, then I'll give a lot away. Well, it doesn't actually work that way. Proverbs says if you choose to be a generous person, something amazing happens. Blessing tends to come into your life. But if you're stingy, if you're tight-fisted, if you kind of hang on and you've got a scarcity mentality, then your resources tend to shrink, rather than having an abundance mentality that says, you know what, I'm going to give this away and God's got plenty more where that came from. And so wisdom teaches us not to wait until we have a lot of money to start giving, but to give now from what we already have. Ultimately, our faith is not in money, but it's in God. And so I want to encourage you to be a generous giver. Maybe there's some people around you that are doing a little bit tough and you've got some overflow that you can help them with. I encourage you to be a regular giver to Bayview. It's a fantastic church community, and the work that Bayview is doing and the ministries that it's involved in. You know, the gospel's free, but there's no such thing as a free lunch. And so, the vision of Bayview can be achieved when there's provision for that vision. And so as each of you do your part, just to give regularly and faithfully to the church, where you're receiving your spiritual food and your spiritual care and great leadership, then the church can flourish and thrive, but also there's a promised blessing for you as a generous giver. God so loved the world that he gave. God's a generous giver, and when we're generous, we become like him as his children, and he's pleased with that. Paul later on says the Lord loves a cheerful giver. And so these financial principles are many ways interrelated. You know, when you are in debt and you have no savings, then it's difficult to give. We often commend the Good Samaritan. You've all heard the story of the Good Samaritan who stopped and had compassion on the man who'd been beaten up by the thieves. But it's not just the compassion of the Good Samaritan we should commend. We should commend their financial management. Because the Good Samaritan had a donkey and then took this beat up man to the inn and paid for the night and said, hey, if there's any more expenses, I'll fix them up on the way back. So the Good Samaritan didn't just have compassion, but had managed their finances well so they could be a blessing to those in need. They had discretionary funds, if you will, to meet the need at hand. And I think that should be our goal. You know, prosperity to me is having enough for our own needs and enough to give away. I think that's God's will for all of us. Ideally is that we have enough for our own needs, not our greeds, but our needs, and enough to give away. But for that to happen, we have to manage our finances well. I don't think God has a problem us having money as long as money doesn't have us. You know, riches can be a threat to our relationship with God. Money's not the problem, it's our attitude towards it. We need money to survive. And God is interested in our money matters. It's important to him, and he wants to bless us individually and also the church. And so as we wrap up our message today, money-wise, hey, it's tough times. Health challenge, social distancing, and a real economic crisis. And so I think the wisdom of Proverbs is really relevant for each of us today. Be a person of integrity. There's a lot more important things than your money, your house, what's in the bank. Think about who you are and what God is shaping you to be. And to be a loving person, a kind person is most important. Work diligently as you're able. Now, some of us may be retired, or maybe we're not able to work. We're all in unique situations, but we can all make a contribution. We can all add value to those around about us. And hard work is how we generate income in our life. Avoid get-rich-quick schemes. Don't be looking to make a quick buck. Don't get caught up in that addictive habit of gambling that can do a lot of damage in families. And if you have a chat to someone, get some help. Say no to debt where at all possible. Say no to debt. And if you're in debt, do your best to get a plan to get out from under that debt. Say yes to savings, just a little at a time. Savings brings a lot of joy and gives you opportunity to go through the tough times and bless others. And finally, be a generous giver. Why not start today? It's not the amount. Jesus talked about a widow who just gave a little coin, and he said, she gave more than most. It's not about the amount, it's about the attitude and the heart and the generosity. And so as we wrap this up today, how are you going? If you're doing great on all of these, well done. Well done. You're managing your finances well, and be an encouragement and a help to others. If you're doing okay, that's good too. Keep going. Keep building on those principles. Or maybe you're listening and you go, whoa, this is a bit challenging, maybe even a bit confronting, maybe you're in a bit of difficulty. That's okay. We've all been there. I've been there. You can't go back and change the past, but your decisions today can affect where you'll be 6 months from now, 12 months, a couple of years from now. And so make some decisions today that will move you towards a much better financial position. And if you need some help, it's okay to ask. Don't go it alone. We thank God for electricians and plumbers and mechanics that come and help us in our physical world. Well, sometimes we need help financially too. And so don't be afraid to ask. Let me pray for you today. God, we've talked about a fairly sensitive subject, money, but it affects all of us. And so I'm praying a blessing on everyone that's joining in with us today. Bless them with finance. Give them opportunities to add value. Give them creative ideas to provide maybe new resources, new products that can make our world a better place. Give them innovation and bless them in the area of their income. As far as our expenditures, give us wisdom to show restraint, to live within our means, to say no to debt, to simplify, to maybe even minimize, and to realize sometimes less is more. And finally, I pray we'd all be generous givers of what you blessed us with, and that Bayview as a church community would have more than enough for the vision that it has, but we'd also be a blessing to those more needy than us around about us. And as we do so, Lord, we'll have all that we need, and your blessing will be upon us. So I thank you for our time together today. Bless every person watching, and most of all, for those that may not know you personally, draw near to them, make yourself real to them. And as we walk with you, I pray that we would be a blessing, a source of hope in a world that's filled with a lot of anxiety today. Wherever we go, may we be bringers of hope and encouragement. I ask this today in Jesus' name. Everyone said amen. God bless you. Thanks very much.
Loving God, Lord of heaven and earth, this earth, our home, belongs to you. Give us grace to love it as you do. Give us courage to give ourselves as you do. This earth, our home, belongs to you. Amen.
Well, I trust that you enjoyed that really helpful and practical message from our good friend Mark Connor. Great to have Mark with us again today. And for those of you who are part of a life group, enjoy digging into Mark's message a little bit deeper and working through it and thinking through how those truths might apply to your life. For those of you who are watching the service at the premier time of 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning, we have our AGM at 11 o'clock via Zoom today. And so we'd love for you to join with us. And all you need to do is click on the Zoom link that was emailed to you throughout the week. And we'll gather together briefly just to update you with things that are taking place in the life of our community. Perhaps you are someone who's reaching out for God or you're in need of some support or some care. Well, we would love to hear from you. Perhaps you would just like to go onto our website, bayviewchurch.org, and go to our Connect page and drop us a line, and somebody from our pastoral team will be in touch with you. Look, thanks so much for joining with us. Why don't you stay safe, be gentle to yourself, be kind to others. And don't forget to anchor yourself in the great love of God. God bless you.